we'll share that with you. I would also like to take this opportunity to praise all of the police officers and support staff that have been working on this scene around the clock, not just at the scene but also at hospitals, at police stations, and talking with other witnesses. But certainly at the scene, it's still an active crime scene. We've got forensics officers processing the crime scene. We've got crash investigation unit officers. We've got rescue officers having the very difficult task of removing people from that scene. And we have Highway Patrol and other officers assisting. So it's a very complex scene. It's an awful situation where we've got 10 confirmed deceased and 25 injured personnel, 36 in total, including the driver in that bus. So I'm sure you can share with me in just imagining how tragic that is for not only the first responders and all those that are responding, but certainly I'm thinking of their families that are affected by this. Minister, if you have anything to add?
Look, I would just like to echo the same sentiments as the Commissioner. It's unfathomable that we are here today on the end of our long weekend, and I can't express deeply enough how saddened I feel for the families, for the community, for the first responders, for everybody involved. I mean, none of us want to be here doing this today. It is clearly just shocking what has occurred. The unnecessary loss of life is something that I'm really struggling with, and to think of an occasion that is usually, of such celebration to turn into something of such devastation, one that these families and quite frankly this community will never forget, and that is going to be a long struggle. I also want to mirror my great thanks to the police and to the first responders that have been hard at work here now for, going on almost 24 hours. And, what they were presented with was something that I suspect they would never have wanted to have seen either. And I know that both the Commissioner and I will make sure that their well-being is looked after, because we have to think about them as well. And we will definitely make sure that that happens. But I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. The work that you do on a day-to-day basis is something that no other worker does. And we are so thankful that you have done that work with the professionalism that you always do. There will be more wraparound services for you as well, but we will make sure that you get that. Look, it's just a tragic set of circumstances, and I'm happy, like the Commissioner, to take any questions.
Commissioner, is there anything you can tell us about the active lines of inquiry at this point? Anything you've heard from the officers who have spoken to witnesses? Any indication at all of what's standing out to them at this point in time?
Not in terms of the cause of the accident, and that will be the subject of the investigation, and that might not be known. The cause may not be known for some time. It will require scientific examination, and that takes time. The most complex part of this job ahead of police now is actually accounting for the victims and the passengers on the bus. You can imagine the scene that was confronting police when they attended, and that many of those people were, some people were transported to different locations and then re-diverted. So police have the arduous task now of matching individuals from the bus to property located in the bus, and you can imagine, for those that have seen that scene, that's going to be a complex task. So it is going to take time, and it is probably frustrating for families, but I'm sure families want to get this right. So we need to just take our time and have families contact CESNOC if they have concerns, and have a family liaison officer meet with them, talk to them, to actually step them through the process, help them understand why it does take time. It's important that we take the time that is required.
Mr. Collins, a question.
One here, one here, then. Sorry, Damien, and then the lady in the blue. Well, that'll be for the coroner to determine, and obviously the size of that bus, it had, I think, could seat up to 54 people. So whether that will be determined, whether they're actually wearing seatbelts or not, or whether it was fitted with seatbelts, and certainly all of that will come under scrutiny. But thank you, Damien. Well, again, the coroner will have to look at that, and ultimately the driver will have to think about that for the rest of his life.
Mr. Collins, can I ask you?
Just sorry for them.
Can you shed light on whether the driver was intoxicated?
All I can say is that the driver was taken for mandatory testing. I'm not aware that there's been any positive return. If it was any sign of anything other than alcohol, that may take time. In fact, it may take weeks. But we certainly, as I said earlier, that the driver is currently in the charging process, and we'll update that as soon as we have those charges available.
Well, if I can say first, my sympathy and the sympathy of all the transport families is to the families and the victims involved. And I just want to, before I do answer that question, just to say thank you to my transport commanders who got there early, for all the people who are working very closely with the police within the transport group. In terms of seatbelts, as the Commissioner has suggested, we will work with, obviously, the investigation. We understand, obviously, we need to ascertain how those belts were operated, were they fitted, and who was wearing them. That is a police matter and will be dealt with in due course.
What steps
I think it's a timely reminder for everybody, and we understand there are many people travelling over this weekend, but it's a timely reminder for everybody to ensure they have a safe journey and get home. So that includes making sure you're safe, and that includes wearing seatbelts.
Commissioner, can you tell us anything about the rescue operation itself? Who got there first? What they did when they got there? I've been reading about the fire brigade having to take their rescue bags to lift the truck up. Do you know anything?
I might invite the Acting Region Commander to talk to that, but let me just say it's been complex. And I think it's only just now that the bus has been righted from its side. It's a delicate operation, and I'm sure you can appreciate the need for that, given that people are inside that bus. But I'll hand over to the Acting Region Commander.
So in terms of your question in relation to last night, on scene in the first instance were Traffic and Hire Patrol Police, Fire and Rescue New South Wales, and obviously New South Wales Ambulance. In terms of what processes were undertaken upon first arrival at the scene, I could not give you any accurate detail in relation to that. As you can imagine, it was a fairly frantic scene. A number of passengers we were able to extract through the front windscreen of the bus, and then deal with those in terms of that triage process with New South Wales Ambulance. So I wouldn't want to provide information that's not accurate. I can't comment on whether certain airbags were used to inflate the bus last night. We're currently in the process of that, yes.
Superintendent, I know it's still early to maybe the commission, but I said there were a number of people from Victoria who were here. Were you able to give shining light on that and what it must mean to their families, all families, yes, but those families interstate who are in this case?
So it's my understanding that at the wedding and indeed on the bus are people from a number of areas, both local within the Singleton LGA, but also some from Sydney and perhaps Queensland and Victoria. I could not provide any more detail at this time in relation to those people.
You just mentioned a little bit more of the scene, and so they got out through the front. What have you learned?
So it's my understanding that emergency responders, and I couldn't say which organisation, were able to smash the front windscreen of the bus in order to pull some people or assist some people out of the bus last night, those that were able to walk themselves.
So walking wounded managed to get out.
That's my understanding.
That would have been in pitch black. You can just imagine what they would have been.
I think, without question, very difficult circumstances for any of the responders, irrespective of New South Wales Police, Ambulance, Fire and Rescue, RFS, obviously all came together, a really coordinated and large-scale emergency response, where they were able to get people to ambulances, in some cases helicopters, and get those people to health care as quickly as possible. I won't comment on any aspects of the investigation that relate to causal factors.
So, Minister, just a question on back to Damo's question about the seatbelts. I know this is a police investigation at the moment, but is it time for the government now to look at what more can be done from a government point of view in making sure that it's not happening?
Well, I think that, as the Police Commissioner said, we should wait for the results of the coronial inquest. We will be guided by that.
Can you touch on the state? But do we know how many are accounted for, how many are deceased?
So we're certainly working on a list that we believe to be accurate at this point in time, and we're talking to family members of those people we believed were on the bus, both those who were who managed to survive and those who unfortunately died at the scene.
How many of you managed to identify thus far, if any?
We certainly have an understanding of the number of people who are unaccounted for, and we're working toward positively identifying those 10 deceased with family members, but it will take some time. I spoke about this morning. It is really important for us to make sure that we maintain appropriate processes, have a good structure in place, and those processes around what we call DVI, or disaster victim identification, have to be followed so that we can make sure that we're talking to the right family members, that family members are getting correct information, and that at the end of the day a coronial inquest can positively confirm who it was that is deceased.
Do you believe that any of the deceased have gone into state?
I won't provide comment at this time.
Sorry, can I just check those numbers? 36 people dead injured?
So it is my understanding there were, including the driver, 36 people on the bus. Of that 36, one is the driver, 10 are deceased, and another 25 were transported to hospital. Not all remain in hospital at this time.
Thank you all.